back to another episode of the Professional Nomad Podcast. Thank you for joining this evening, and thank you if you are watching this on the replay. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you got your notification bell checked as always. I am your humble host, Stefano, and we have a great episode today. Today, we're going to be talking about a very important topic. Once again, this is another one that it's another video that's going to discuss financial matters and financial situation that's going on in the United States. And we want to know, should the United States dollar be backed by the gold? Because a lot of other currencies in the world are being backed by gold. Um, right now, the United States currency is backed by consumerism in the U.S. Army. So basically, the dollar is based off the backs of the people. It's based off of what you spend, how much money you spend. And I don't feel like that is good enough, because if the money is inflated and it's already hard enough for people as is in the country, if the people are not buying anything and are not spending any money, then the US dollar is worthless, period. And this affects everyone from people living in the US to people that live outside the US. So this is a very important topic that I think we should discuss tonight. So I want to make sure I bring this to the table. Um, also, I also want to make sure that I thank all of the new subscribers. We got some new subscribers in here today. I want to make sure that you guys are acknowledged, because you could be subscribing to any other channel, but you are subscribing here. And that means a lot. So I want to say thank you for the subs. But please hit that like button. A lot of the videos on my channel that are being viewed, they're being viewed by people who are not subscribed. So to counteract that, I would like to ask everyone to please hit this sub button. Especially like if you're watching this on a replay, please hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. When you hit the like button, it invites people into the broadcast to come check out what we talk about uh, on this channel. So whether you agree with the content or not, please make sure that you are leaving comments on the video. Please make sure that you are, sharing the content with people that you know. And also just simply hitting the like button. It's free. It doesn't cost you a dime. Let me check out my camera real quick. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it doesn't cost anything to hit the like button. Like is free. Make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit the like button. All right. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna review a video, because I don't want to ramble too long. We're gonna review a video, and this video is from Kitco News. If you have never seen Kitco News, please make sure you go over there and check them out. They're a great news channel, and they keep you up to date on what's going on in current affairs. It's not BSNBC. It's not Fox News. Michelle over there keeps it real, and she has a lot of great interviews over there talking about things, especially with the financial system going on. And in this video, she's interviewing Andy Schectman. If you don't know who Andy Schectman is, you're really slipping, and you need to do your homework, because Andy Schectman basically sells gold. So he's big on gold. He's big on everything that has to do with the US dollar being backed by gold. Last week, we had a situation where a guy was saying that his father told the US back in the days, back in the 70s, not to disassociate the US dollar with gold, or what's going on right now would happen. And we didn't listen as a country. And I say we, because we are part of this. So what happened is we did not listen. All right. So it is what it is. I also want to make sure I give a shout out to the stream sponsor, the International Quiet Storm. He was the stream sponsor last week. He sent a $20 super chat, so I want to make sure he gets acknowledged. Thank you. All donations are very, very much appreciated. I got a typo. I just seen a typo in the banner, so I need to correct this real quick. Here we go. Boom. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, he's a stream sponsor. He's been the stream sponsor for several episodes of this podcast. So I always want to make sure I show love and give people their props when they're there. Who we got in the building on Stitch? On Stitch, we got Gully. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Hey, how you doing? All right. So with that being said, I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna get right into this video. So you guys make sure you go over there and give them a sub, all right?
Yeah, I would argue the West has already lost its hegemony. We haven't lost our supremacy, but the hegemony is gone. The it or the bang is when everyone in a coordinated fashion realizes that what has been done slowly and methodically is inevitable and we need to get out of dollars now. But the all at once moment, when it becomes, when the collective awareness of the world realizes this is a trend that is happening and that we are moving away from a country that is immeasurably indebted, or we will never pay this off. We will either inflate, we will default, or we will find a villain. And I think they've chosen what's behind door number 3, to find a villain. To me, the big picture is exactly what Zoltan Pozar says. It's a system that's all about commodities. I think gold will outperform just about everyone's expectations because it will be the cornerstone to inspiring trust in whatever new system arises.
If President Trump does win, he has said that he would tackle this. He has addressed this issue. He has expressed strong opposition to countries moving away from the dollar. He understands how important it is. He has compared it to losing a revolutionary war. Can this be reversed? Do you see perhaps a conflict, a war, as a way of fighting back for this reserve currency, reserve asset status?
On the Spot with Michelle McCory is brought to you by Swan Bitcoin.
Previously in part 1 of this interview.
In a major shift, Saudi Arabia has let the PetroDollar Agreement expire, opting to sell oil in multiple currencies instead of exclusively using the US dollar. The agreement of the past 50 years expired on June 9th. Now, the so-called...
Let me stop it right there. Now, what we have right here is a list of reasons why we need to try to find places for our money to go, right? Number one, last month in June, the PetroDollar Agreement, which gave the US dollar its dynamic strength, right, to be the global reserve currency, expired. Saudi Arabia also joined BRICS. That's two smacks in the face, right? So what does that mean? That means we are in some trouble here because June 8th of last month was when the agreement could have been renewed. Now they're still negotiating, don't get me wrong, but the Saudis have opted to sell oil in multiple currencies instead of just one. So when we agreed on this PetroDollar Agreement, June 8th, 1974, our money was solid. It was way more solid than it is right now. And right now, the money is not solid. Everyone knows that we have tons of inflation, and they're trying to find something to do because the global reserve currency is failing, and they have their eyes on it. So what the Saudis opted to do is to de-dollarize and accept payments for oil in different currencies. And that's not a them problem, that's a us problem, because we were the predominant country when it came to the money. But now this is one thing that's hurting us, and we're acting like we don't care. Let's get back to the video.
PetroDollar deal reportedly stipulated that Saudi Arabia would price its oil exports exclusively in US dollars and invest its surplus oil revenues in US Treasury bonds. In exchange, the US would provide military support and protection to the kingdom. This helped the US dollar cement its position as the world's reserve currency and ushered in an era of American prosperity. So Saudi Arabia, now looking to move beyond an exclusive relationship with the US, marks a significant change in global economic dynamics and could have far-reaching implications for the US dollar's dominance.
The theory really would be that as those dollars, there are way more dollars outside the U.S. than are inside the U.S. because of the stockpiling to buy oil for 50 years. And as those dollars come home and are sold back to the issuer because no one wants to hold them anymore. Now, it hasn't turned out into a full-fledged dumping, which I could see it turning into that at some point. But there still is demand for the dollar, as you mentioned, still does represent 58% of global reserves. And there is dollar-denominated debt that needs to be paid off. But little by little by little, I call it logarithmic decay. Little by little by little by little, it starts to chip away as those dollars are there's no longer a necessity to hold them. And as those dollars start to come home, inflation rates would go higher and higher and higher and higher. And heaven forbid it's dumping. There's something out there called Project Sandman that basically says there's a whole group of 150, 175 countries that have agreed to do just that, to dump dollars in treasuries at a pre.
How many times have I told you guys to check out Project Sandman? All right, he just mentioned it. Project Sandman, right? Project Sandman. Go check out Project Sandman. This is the third important reason why you need to find a future for your money, because what Project Sandman is where a bunch of countries are planning to dump the dollar all at once. When they do this, it's going to kill the economy here. It's going to hurt our US dollar. And what are you going to do when your money's not worth anything, because it's basically trash? Venezuela had the same problem. They suffered tons of inflation. Now look at the Venezuelans. Yeah, I mean, we're simply printing money. That's all we're really doing, is printing money, and it's not okay. Let's get back to the video.
Predetermined time. The question is it orderly or is it chaotic? But as those dollars come home, the level of inflation rises as those currency units are added to the currency base here, which would then raise interest rates. And when that happens, that's when you start to get into problems where, as rates rise, things that in this country that make people feel wealthy, their stock holdings, their bond holdings, their real estate holdings, and the money held in the bank are all inversely correlated to that moment. And the over-leveraging of the banks in particular is a real big problem here. But if you think about it, if this happened all at once, if it was all at once, it would be catastrophic. They're putting it together and doing it the right way, methodically, regimented. And when they say now, it'll be a religious experience, because that's when you would see the dumping, a massive dumping. Yes, it is a big deal, regardless of what they are telling you about the petrodollar deal being a nothing burger. It is not a nothing burger.
So Andy, you're saying regardless, the era of fiat currency is done. And again, fiat means by decree, Latin for by decree, and essentially currencies, backed by nothing. What is the timeline? And I always ask you this, and it seems to accelerate every time we speak. But you see, what is the ultimate fate of the dollar that you're seeing here, and under what timeline? Play that out for us.
Michelle, I see things, some things have seen clearly. None of it ever comes with a time frame. In a world of probabilities, I think there's a high probability that this happens. I don't know the time frame, but it is accelerating tremendously. I wish I could answer that question. It would be nothing but a guess. Here, I'll show you. I had a painting commission that says it all. I don't know if you can see it. See that? Little by little, then all at once. Right. That is my take on things. Sorry. That is my take on things. It's going to be little by little, then all at once. That's logarithmic decay. You can see the logarithmic decay in society, in our finances, the way the moral fabric of this country, the way we are viewed around the world, the loss of the petrodollar standard, the detreasurization, the weaponization, all of these things are happening little by little by little by little. Bang. When is that bang? Don't know. But if you look, I think people know that there's something wrong. And even if you can't articulate it, something's wrong. And I don't know how fast before it breaks, but I can tell you that you don't wait for it to break. You don't wait for your house to be on fire to pay your home insurance premium. And you don't wait until you're on death's door to do your life insurance. And it's one of these deals where I think you take a look at all of the facts and weigh them and say that this is a trend that appears to be gaining steam. And I mean, look, the few times that we've spoken, everything we've talked about seems to be happening and accelerating. I'm not a soothsayer. This is the only thing in my career that I've seen clearly. Because I had the courage to, in 2019 and 20 say this, and it's documented and it's happening, and it scares me. It does, because it scares me how fast it's happening, and I don't see the time when I think about it, and I don't see what happens after it happens. It's really
what is the it, Andy? Just articulate as clearly as you can the bad.
Fashion realizes that what has been done slowly and methodically is inevitable, and we need to get out of dollars now. And when you realize that everything in this country that makes people feel wealthy is inversely correlated to a spike in interest rates. And it allows us to have a villain. That villain is Xi Jinping and Putin and OPEC. How could they do it to us? That all at once moment, which starts out where the insiders know what's happening. And that's why you see this little by little part, that's where the people blow it off as inconsequential and a nothing burger, and it will never happen. Could never happen here. Right? Look at all the things that have happened in the last 3 years that could never happen here. Well, these people, because of its slow, methodical pace, this little by little, they could never think it could happen here, and they blow it off and poo-poo it. But the all-at-once moment, when the collective awareness of the world realizes this is a trend that is happening and that we are moving away from a country that is immeasurably indebted, over 200 million, a trillion seconds ago was 31,688 years ago. We will never pay this off. We will either inflate, we will default, or we will find a villain. And I think they've chosen what's behind door number 3, to find a villain, to incentivize. And we've talked about Jared Bernstein before, a man, the lead economic advisor, this knucklehead, he's the lead guy who's just talking into Biden's ear, telling him what to do. He wants to lose the reserve status. Well, what better way to do it than to weaponize the dollar and go sign an executive order to go green, allow the coalition of all these countries to find safety in numbers, and then let the country fall apart back at home. When you talk about the realization that this is real, and people then go from, wow, it's not a nothing burger, and run, that's when it becomes real. I don't know when that is. When is the collective realization? Could be next week. Could be 3 years from now. I don't know. But the inevitability of it, to me, is that we are watching a shift of natural resources and of power move from the West to the East. And at some point that will become, I think, evident to the masses. When that happens, that's the it. And that's when it happens. Just like that.
People are too worried about what's going on with Trump. People are too worried about what's going on with Biden. And it's becoming horrible right now. It really is. And if you took the time to just really, really learn about what's really going on out here, you would see that the finances are in a state of no return. We're in trillions of dollars of debt and we'll never pay this money off. We'll never pay it off. Never. And people are going to just react to the fact, like he said, in panic when people need to be being preemptive and thinking forward instead of thinking backwards. Well, let's get back to the video.
See all at once when you go over the waterfall.
I appreciate that interactive camera work there, by the way, Andy,
Thank you.
showing us
Thank you.
your artwork and an insight into your office.
Thank
And
you.
again, a reminder to our viewers, Jared Bernstein, the chairman of President Biden's Council of Economic Advisors, and he penned an op-ed in the New York Times back in 2014 titled Dethrone King Dollar. And in it, Bernstein wrote that new research reveals that was once a privilege is now a burden. And to get the American economy back on track, the government needs to drop its commitment to maintaining the dollar's reserve currency status. And then back in 2018, Bernstein wrote another op-ed in the Washington Post stating that if one consequence of the Trump era is that the dollar loses some degree of its reserve status, I will consider that a good thing. So, people within the Biden administration saying that they want this sort of leads to one of the arguments you've made before, where you say that this is perhaps, by design, not even an accident.
Yeah, I think it's too stupid to be stupid. I do. I mean, you can't make it up. And that's why I want people to spend a few minutes researching the Cloward-Piven theory, because guess what? Jared Bernstein, as did President Obama, both went to Columbia University, where Cloward and Piven, a husband and wife, they were husband and wife professors. They present a plan to overwhelm the system with government spending and entitlement programs. Let me just read you 3 or 4 tenets of it. One, it's as if they are purposely overwhelming the U.S. economy to create systemic failure, destroying capitalism and our country from within. Cloward and Piven specifically mentioned targeting America's largest cities for their colossal welfare push. The primary objective of the strategy is to create chaos with the hopes of destroying America's capitalistic economy and replacing it with a socialist system that includes guaranteed incomes, a massive drive to recruit the poor onto the welfare rolls. The point of surging welfare claims is to enroll as many individuals as it takes to send the United States into an economic crisis. Well, think of 17 million people in here. Cloward and Piven reveal the best way to achieve their goals is to create a new loyal voting bloc out of the rapidly increasing number of welfare recipients. By delivering millions of dollars in cash benefits to the masses, expecting the masses will deliver their loyalty to their benefactors, develop an army of loyal serfs who will work to destroy America, whether knowingly or unknowingly. All these illegal immigrant children will be added to the welfare rolls and can be counted on to vote for larger government. Furthermore, both Cloward and Piven agreed that the mainstream media would play a critical role in their organized attack against America. To quote Cloward and Piven, as the crisis develops, it will be important to use the mass media to inform the broader liberal community about the inefficiencies and injustices of welfare. Now, think about all of this stuff and ask yourself, is it possible that this is what they are actually trying to do? I mean, Obama went there, as did let's see, Bill Barr, Eric Holder, Madeleine Albright, Jared Bernstein. They all went there in the 60s. And Cloward and Piven were teaching. Now, I don't know if they learned from them or after them, but this was a tenet that was taught at Columbia. Now, I mean, fine line between conspiracy and reality. But when you read that and think about it, They are overwhelming the inner cities. They are overwhelming the entitlement system. They are, the left-leaning media doesn't do a bad job. They do no job of telling us what's going on except create divisiveness. And all of this stuff, you can't make it up. Is it too stupid to be stupid? Did we really let all these people into our country? Is our electoral system fair? Do people go up to bed at night after the votes start getting tabulated in November and wonder, are they going to wake up to something different? Is the justice system deploying equally, the justice equally, or is there two-tiered? All of these things you start to wonder, and then look at what's happening to the inner cities and ask yourself, is it too stupid to be stupid, or is it not? Could it be planned? Is this the foundation to incentivize the world, like via the Operation Sandman, dump the dollars in the treasuries, create a massive surge of inflation, interest rates spike to the moon, and everything resets? Dollars, the banks, the insurance companies, the stock market, the bond market, everything. But have no fear, because guess who's here? Lael Brainerd, the number 2 at the U.S. government for economic policy. She worked at the Treasury. She worked under Powell at the Fed. And if somehow this current administration keeps power, she will lead the Fed. And she was number 2 under Powell. And she is a modern monetary theorist. She developed the CBDC while at the Fed with MIT. She ran Point for Fed Now, which came out 6 months ago, which is Venmo on steroids, backed by the Fed. This is what she wants. Culling of all the banks, a central bank issued digital currency, print, start over. And the interesting thing, Michelle, that I don't think we've talked about is, look at the unfunded liabilities: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, government, military pensions. Who's that owed to? That's us. How about all the treasuries? Who's been selling them? Oh yeah, that's all them. Who's been buying them? Oh yeah, that's all us. The hedge funds, the money markets, mutual funds, and every one of us chasing yield, leaving the banks, buying treasuries. So it's a whole hell of a lot easier to default on us, where only, 20-25% of the debt is owed to them. It's all owed to us. We are so sorry this happened. Michelle, just sign on the dotted line. We know you lost everything. Take the CBDC, will make you whole. And this is all about pride and nationalism and patriotism, because they did this to us. So when you talk about, do we fall on the sword and default? Do we inflate, which leads to default? Or do we just find a villain? And that's why when I'm giving a talk next month at Rick Rule's conference here in Boca, I was bummed to hear you won't be there, but I know your company will be there, but you won't. The title of my first speech was going to be, "It's Too Stupid to Be Stupid," but now it's something a little bit more political. It's the same thing. Could we really be that foolish to think all of these things that we've done around the globe and at home won't have consequences? Or are the people not that stupid and really realizing this is how you get to option 3, and that is to find a villain that will make people universally accept a CBDC when the dollar gets forsaken? Now, I don't know if that happens or not. Everything I said up until that point is factual, but
Right.
I guess you just have to let your mind wander a little bit.
Let me stop it right there. Now, he said a mouthful, right? But what we don't want is a CBDC. We don't want. We can take wholesale CBDCs, okay? Wholesale CBDCs are strictly used by banks, right? Wholesale CBDCs are not they don't affect the normal people, all right? What does affect the normal people are retail CBDCs, and this is what he's speaking of right now. A retail CBDC where they control your money, they control everything you do, and that's what we don't want. We don't want them automatically all in our business, and they pretty much already are. That's pretty much what they're doing right now. They're already able to see your finances. They can see everything, right? So the main thing that you don't want is for them to go ahead and go through this big, long, elaborate scheme that he just mentioned by letting everything default and then having to reset. And then because it reset, they installed a CBDC. And because they installed CBDC, we don't have any choice but to take it because we need money and finance to live in this country. So what are we going to do? The only way they can get rid of all of the debt is to digitize it, is to switch it over to crypto. And I've spoken of this a million times. This is the only way they will ever be able to pay off this debt and keep the reserve currency status. But they have to do it. If they don't do it, I don't know what'll happen. But it does seem like this big elaborate plan, because it's like, what are you doing? What are we doing? What are we doing with the money? What are we doing with these? It's just not making any sense to where we have some of the smartest and brightest people in the world working for the government, and everything is pretty much falling apart. And it's like, oh well, they're letting it happen. Are they trying to do what Andy just mentioned right here? And that is let everything just implode and then default, and then we have to automatically start over, and then we're forced to take CBDCs because we have no other choice. This is the only way that you can be made whole, because the wealthy are going to want their money. The 1%, they're going to want their money. They're going to want it. No excuse. They're not going to take that. So a lot of the people are going to cop out. What's being done right now is the greatest wealth conversion in the history of mankind. And you're not even seeing it because you're too worried about Dumb Donald and Sleepy Joe, or trying to figure out how to smash some woman overseas. Like, yo, we need to wake up. This is what's really going on. We need to figure out what to do about our money and how to get things back on track, and understand what to do if the government cannot get it on track. How do you make yourself whole without the help of the government? Well, like I said earlier, you can invest in crypto, learn about some cryptos. Cryptocurrency is here to stay, and it's not going away. You can also take and learn about how to invest in precious metals that are not affected by inflation. They're not affected by inflation. So you can invest in gold, silver. Go check out Robert Kiyosaki. He talks about this all the time. I share a portion of his video last week in my other live stream. Go back and check out that video. You can see it. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. That way you can stay on top of this. I'm going to put all of these videos together, and I'm going to create a playlist called How to Get Yourself Out of the U.S. if you need to. And it's going to be on my YouTube channel. And you'll be able to go through step by step and figure out what to do in the event that things go as it seems like it's going. All right. So, yeah. It's horrible. Let's get back to the video.
Everything that you've said, has played out, and our viewers know that nothing keeps me up at night more than worrying about a central bank digital currency. A reminder to our viewers: a form of fiat issued by a country's central bank, which is on the blockchain, or some kind of blockchain. So there's no privacy, there's no anonymity. That's completely obliterated. And most problematic is that it's programmable, meaning they can decide when that currency works or doesn't work. And they decide what transactions will be allowed. And it could also fine-tune monetary policy and just sort of inject money back into the system or suck money out of the system with a click.
About that.
You're
Boom. And this is why you don't want a CBDC. She just broke it down. It's a programmable currency. If they don't want you to spend money in a certain place, they can cut your money off. They can cut it off. You know, who wants that? Nobody should want that. What's going on, Sensei? Thanks for coming through here. All right, go ahead, pop the question, man. You know, we've been here, so we got some time to make up. You know what I mean? Had a little technical issue, so it's okay. Drop your question in the chat. But that's why we don't want a CBDC, a retail CBDC. We don't want a retail CBDC because we do not want them to be able to control our money. That's what retail CBDCs do. Wholesale CBDCs is a whole different matter. Go look up the difference between wholesale versus resale CBDCs. I also did a whole video on CBDCs. Go check out that one too. All right. But you want to make sure that you have a plan in place. Let's get back to the video. You do not want a CBDC, though. Not a retail CBDC.
Right. That's one of the tenets of it. But that's why you have to have an event that make people who are smart like you and the people who listen to you be willing to take it. Because if I were betting man, I'd say you'd never take it if you had your choice.
Or have no choice, right? Wipe out the system and then say, well, you can't use this anymore, but here's your digital wallet with a CBDC, and you have no choice but to do that. I want to focus on perhaps what could derail this, and you mentioned the elections. President Trump has been very vocal against a CBDC, for one thing. Some have also argued that this would not have happened under President Trump, although arguably the debt issue long precedes the Trump administration. But some would say that part of the weakness of the Biden administration, you know, coupled with a relationship with the Saudis, coupled with the Afghanistan withdrawal, you know, sort of accelerated this whole process. The question, though, is, you know, can this be reversed?
What do you mean, Sensei? Are you saying, can you go to another country and can you elaborate on that more? Because a lot of countries still use paper currency. A lot of people have paper currency. They still use paper currency, but it depends on the country you're talking about. What country are you referring to in general, if you don't mind me asking? It really helps because you're saying, can I show them my money? Can you show who? Who are you trying to show the money to? And what is the purpose of you showing them anything? So just elaborate on it a little bit more. It's a little vague and you might not want to put it out there too much, but you know, if you can say why you need to show it, that might help. It might help me understand why you asked that question.
If Trump somehow wins the election, and many have questioned the integrity of that process and of our justice system, as you've just kind of touched on, but we won't unpack that in too much detail. But let's just say if President Trump does win, he has said that he would tackle this. He has addressed this issue. He has expressed strong opposition to countries moving away from the dollar. He understands how important it is. He has compared it to losing a revolutionary war. In fact, in March, he told CNBC that he would just not allow countries to go off the dollar because losing that standard would be like losing a revolutionary war. That'll be a major hit to the U.S. Let's quickly play that Trump soundbite from then and get your thoughts on the other side.
I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country, just like losing a war. And we can't let that happen. And too many countries now are fighting to get off the dollar.
So, Andy, President Trump gets the picture that you're painting. He gets that this is really going to hurt the American economy, America's standing on the world stage, and Americans living day to day trying to pay.
Let me stop it. Let me answer that question, Sensei. So, yes, you can convert your USD into their version of money. You can call your bank and order the money. That's one thing you can do. Call your bank, order the money. They'll get it for you. Um, but it depends on what country you're trying to enter. If the country you're trying to enter still uses paper fiat currency, then you'll be fine. But if it's somewhere like a Brazil that's requiring, like next year, that's just the thing when Brazil does what they do. It'll be next year where you have to show them $2,000 in your bank account. So I'm guessing, see, this is only for Americans who have to show them the $2,000. So I'm guessing that money has to be in USD form, right? Also, the $2,000 has to be separate from whatever money you're going to take over there and spend. Put it that way. So it's two separate things. So you got, hold on, let me solo it up. You'll have to have the $2,000 in your bank account, and you'll also have to have spending money to get the visa. If that makes sense? No, it doesn't have to. Virtual bank form is what you're going to have to present to them. Like if we're talking about Brazil, yeah, you're going to have to literally probably screen. I don't know how they're going to do it. They're probably going to want some bank statements or something like that. Normally, that's what they do, bank statements. Yeah, call your bank and ask your bank, and your bank can make it happen for you. Tell them, well, first off, if you're going to any country, you need to let them know just in case something happens. That's one of the first things you do. You let them know you're going to another country, because if you lose your wallet or something over there and you got your cards in your wallet, somebody finds it, they're going to go have a shopping spree. So you want to call your bank and let them know you're traveling to another country. Like with my bank, I can automatically set up a plan to where it automatically converts it over to pesos. I don't even have to speak to anybody. I can just go in and say, okay, here's my travel plan. I select the option, travel plan, select the country I'm going to. And then when I get there, my cards work. I don't have to worry about having any issues with my debit card or credit cards or whatever I'm doing in that country. You just need to let them know. But I don't know who you bank with. So you want to call them and see if you can do it yourself on their banking app, if they have a banking app, or can they do it on the phone? Like you call them and tell them what you're planning on doing. Also, you call and tell them, you're going to this country and you don't want to take, say for instance, you tell them you don't want to take your debit card over there. Tell them you want to order some money. They have the money. They can get you the fiat. They can get you the fiat currency. They can get it to you. In this country, we have, like when we have tourists come from other countries, they convert their money over to US dollars. So we have the currency here in the Federal Reserve, other places like that. So, boom, that's how that works. They can get you whatever currency you want from whatever country you're going to. You spell fiat wrong. Fiat is F-I-A-T. Fiat, like the car. Fiat. Nice try though. Yeah, you bring both. Yeah, do that, but just know you can't go to some of these countries spending US dollars. So like Colombia, you can't spend US dollars. I wouldn't even do it. I wouldn't even try. I'd automatically convert over to the peso. Brazil, you have to use the Brazilian real. You cannot use US dollars. It's illegal, basically. Remember, they're part of BRICS. So yeah. Now you can, if you're talking about bringing a debit card, that's cool, but you wanna make sure that you have some local currency, because if you think they run scams here for debit cards, you ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till you go overseas. Yeah, it's a lot of scams overseas. So you kind of don't want to whip out their debit card and pay with their card everywhere you go. And at the same time, there's still a lot of places overseas in these countries that don't accept cards. You have to pay with cash. And if it's in South America, a lot of them don't take cards in every restaurant, in every store. They only take cash, or like they say, no, solo uso efectivo. Yeah, so efectivo. Solo accept efectivo. You get it. All right. Let's get back to the video. I hope that answers your question.
For the grocery bills, that's going to become a heck of a lot worse. Let's assume somehow President Trump wins the election, right? Is there anything that can be done at this stage, even if that means going to war? What can be done?
He is a smart man, and he say what you want about his sometimes buffoonery, the way he would speak. I would take his policies any day over the current administration, and God help us if he doesn't win. It would be just be my personal decision or opinion. But I don't like, here again, the continuation of sanctions and threats. And he's talking about sanctioning countries who would join the BRICS or would not use the dollar. And he's talking about a massive devaluation of the dollar, choosing inflation, lowering rates and inflating and devaluing the dollar. What that just means, it's easier to pay off our mountain of debt. He may keep the ball up in the air a little bit longer, and he may inspire concern and fear by some of our foes who are not afraid at all of the current administration, and he may make things better. I don't know if we've crossed that Rubicon, Michelle. Part of me feels like we have. And I wish I wasn't so concerned about, the fairness of the election process. And indeed, if we will wake up again to another questioning of the electoral system, either way you look at it, let's just say he wins. I say we have a better chance of pulling out of this nosedive. Look, Americans have done the best with their back against the wall. The one thing that we need that I don't know that either candidate is capable of doing is inspiring unity in this country. We need to be united in order to pull ourselves up. We need to all be Americans, regardless of where we've come from. And the Biden administration has done an amazing job at fostering a lack of unity and resentment, and at least in my opinion. So can he fix it? Look, if he goes around the world imposing sanctions again and all of these kinds of things that we've been doing for a very long time, I would say the chances are no. But if we can go around the world and do things in a more cooperative fashion and show the value of the American spirit and American ingenuity, and it'd be great to have some American manufacturing and all of these things that once made this country the beacon of everything: liberty, justice, freedom, all of the things that I talked about that seem to be kind of fading away, then no. So I guess we'll have to see. But I will tell you that we have zero chance if the Democratic Party stays in office, and a better chance of at least pulling out of this nosedive if Trump wins. But even his policy of massive dollar devaluation and of weaponization, or again, sanctions, if people do leave us, well, they're leaving you for a reason. And instead of sanctioning them and locking the door and going to bed without dinner, you might as well find an incentive and show how we can benefit one another by staying together. And that's something that I hope is not, an ideal from an era gone by. I don't know. I really don't. I can't answer that. But to say we have a much better chance if he wins, that's for sure.
But okay, so you've got onshoring production, which has been a Trump administration policy. Arguably, we've even seen the Biden administration sort of catch wind to this right now. And I get your point that some in the Biden administration want this, have spoken that this is what they want to do, and it's easier to find a villain. But even within the Biden administration, even within the old school establishment, you would have to say that there are some that do not want to lose this privilege of being the global reserve currency, right? That not everybody wants to have this great reset, and that there are people within the American government, Republican or Democrat, that for the power that it represents would still like to keep the dollar on top.
I'd sure as hell
So-
like to hope so. Yeah, I would.
But
I'd like to hope
so the option is, right, but we still have a problem, as we've said, that is accelerating, and that we've got this debt, that's just servicing this debt is costing the annual defense budget, if not more at this point. The expression is, when all else fails, they take you to war, right? And if we remember how the dollar got the status, it was after World War II. Bretton Woods I was after the US helped the Allies win the war. We're currently seeing, proxy wars happening around the world, Russia, Ukraine being one of them. Do you see perhaps a conflict, a war, as a way of fighting back for this currency reserve?
Let me stop it right there. And I just mentioned this last week, right? Like, we're already over in Ukraine, fighting for you, helping Ukraine fight, right? On the sly, we're helping them fight. Russia, Mother Russia, right? How hard would it be for us to just shoot a missile right on over there? Boom. Because we're already there. Just to pop it off. I mean, the way it looks is like we're going to war. In secret, they're passing laws now in the United States to where anyone 18 to 26, you're automatically enrolled in the draft. All right. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that like button. If you've been here this long and you're still around, please hit that like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm just saying, how hard would it be for them to shoot a missile right on over here, right to Russia? Not hard at all, right? And they can go to war at any minute just because they want to. Pretty much, it's not hard at all, and they can just do it just because they want to do it. And that's some of the things that we're not okay with. We're not wanting this for our kids and our children. We don't want that. It's just a God honest truth. Let me get back to this video, and then we're gonna end this live stream in a minute. I'm gonna take it down because I got some editing to do to the video due to that technical glitch. I don't know what happened earlier, but I'm gonna get it together.
Of asset status. For those Republican or Democrat that don't want this, could that be a way to reassert American dominance? And again, certainly not rooting for a war, but could that be a way?
I would sure as hell hope not. And here again, when you talk
But that
about
could change it, though. I mean, couldn't
Sure.
that change
I mean,
that
it
if you have
could.
some massive war and the U.S. comes out on top, and then everybody starts to fear America again, and they rethink this? Again, assuming the U.S. comes out on top, and who knows, then they kind of go, well, better get back on Team Dollar.
Well, let me put it to you this way. I have a friend that I play golf with who is friends with President Trump and plays golf with him once a month. And we talked about it just the other day. And he said that these countries feared him. And he said they respected, but more they feared him. They feared what he would do. And, he would tell me stories about what he would say to President Xi if he invaded Taiwan, and the things he would say to North Korea, to Kim. And again, this is all, I'm hearing this, third party, but yeah, maybe. I mean, again, yes, I think it's what is needed for sure. We need to have strength. We need to show that, I think we need to go back to the American ideals, and that's, that's also part of the deal. But yes, I think we have a better chance if Trump is in the White House to forestall these things. But God help us if we get into a hot war with, a country like China or a country like Russia. You know, I live in southern Florida here, and there are nuclear powered
Right.
submarines, Russian submarines, 60 miles away from me. Is that something I take comfort in? Hell no.
But Andy, what if Russia loses this war? You know, because even the Biden administration has become more aggressive in funding this conflict. And we can get into how this conflict started in the first place and whether the Biden administration provoked Putin into that. That's, again, a whole other conversation we don't have time for right now. But let's assume Russia loses this war somehow, right? It really starts to amp up and there's more of a Western alliance here. Does that make this process slow down, reconsider? Because as we said, Putin has been one of the biggest players in pushing the de-dollarization trend, in calling for a new system. Should Putin get taken out, Russia loses the war, does that change the equation?
You know, you had all of the BRICS just refuse to sign this agreement about, you know, trying to end the war. And because Russia wasn't at the table, you have half of the Southern Hemisphere, or those aligned with the BRICS, who are on the side of Russia in this deal. And if they lose the war, it will be because either NATO or the United States ramped up their interest in this, which can all lead to a very dark place. Michelle, I don't even want to think about going into a World War III with high-tech weaponry the way that it is, and hypersonic missiles and all of these things. Let's just really hope for the best and hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, I mean, that's what they've done, no question about it. And we're more guilty of that than anyone. And so could it happen? Sure, it could. Will it happen? Let's hope not. Let's hope that there's some decorum. What should be more frightening is letting 17 million people into this country, many of which are unvetted, who have ties to terrorist organizations, who think they're a martyr by doing awful things, and they don't worry about mutual annihilation. Right. And that's a bigger threat to me, is what happens to, I mean, have we been invaded? Are there terror cells here? The FBI seems to think so. And again, 5% of 17 million, oh, that's a lot. You know, you're 900,000 people. That's a lot of damage. To me, that's the real threat. You know, I just read an article, and they'll admit to this, that every single day these Navy installations and military installations are being, you have all these Chinese nationals. I just read it in mainstream article last night that they have to turn away these Chinese nationals who are going and taking pictures of military installations, even in very rural areas, and say they're sightseeing. So, I mean, could there be a 1% chance?
Stop it right there. They're also buying up the land around military bases. They're also buying up the land around military bases. So they haven't passed it yet. The other branches might decline the bill. I hope they do. Please let them decline it, because I don't want my son in the war. I don't want that for him. I appreciate everyone who has put their life on the line, or lost their life defending this country in and overseas. I do not want this for my son. I don't want this for your sons. I don't want it for your daughters. And they're talking about putting women in the war. So I don't want this for anybody. I think we need to try to find some kind of way to mind our business. Straight like that. You know? I mean, we're always doing something with somebody. We always got to be big brother to some country. Or we're sticking our foot in somebody else's business, sticking our nose in somebody else's business. We really don't. I mean, that's horrible. It's horrible. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Once I put the video back up, I got to edit it. I'm going to edit out that little spot where we had that hiccup earlier. But let me know what you think. Should the US dollar go back to being backed by gold? If we do, we can avoid a lot of this inflation that's going on right now. The only reason we're having the problem is because technically the US dollar is not worth anything, just to be honest. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. We're going to end this live right here. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button. All right.